Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 9 based on novel. So let's start. The large hall was deathly quiet. All the faces in the hall had adopted an almost frozen expression. They were somewhat dazed as they looked at the young man standing at the seats right in front. Some people dug their ears as though they were doubting the truth of what they had just heard. He is here to demand repayment from Shu Xong. Several people faced each other and mumbled. Although they felt that this Lin Dong was indeed really domineering, the price of such words was not small. The one on the throne was the overlord of Deep Lightning Mountain. At the same time, he was also one of the renowned 8 great demon commanders. That was a top expert who had reached the peak of the perfect profound death stage. He was only a step away from the samsara stage. Yet, at this very moment, a seemingly mere initial profound death stage young man had come to demand repayment from that man. This scene appeared a little comical. However, all those who felt amused by this were unable to laugh for some unknown reason. As individuals who had become the faction's heads, none of them were ordinary people. This Lin Dong before them did not appear to be a fool. However, he still dared to fearlessly utter such words. Moreover, there was no fear on his young face. If Lin Dong was not completely ignorant, this behavior indicated that he possessed some confidence, although everyone did not understand where this confidence originated from. It would undoubtedly be a little foolish to jump to any conclusions now. The atmosphere at the front of the hall was exceptionally tense. The other 8 generals, including Chen Tong's group, felt a chill run through their bodies as they gazed at the young man nearby. They were aware that Little Flame and Lin Dong would create trouble today. However, they never imagined that Lin Dong would actually act in such a domineering manner. Since he did this, however, there was really no turning back. Shu Song's body continued to lean forward on the throne. His eyes stared intently at Lin Dong while dark and chilling traces of blood slowly climbed up in his eyes. Demand repayment? The corners of Shu Song's mouth cracked open as laughter emerged from within. His body trembled as the laughter finally spread all over the deathly silent hall. A moment later, he finally lowered his head slowly as a mocking and sinister expression surged from the corners of his mouth. I'm afraid that you aren't qualified to demand repayment from Shu Xong. Try me. A ferocious glint surged within Little Flame's tiger eyes. His palm was suddenly slammed on the stone table in front of him. The stone table whizzed forward. It contained a frightening force as it ruthlessly smashed towards Shu Xong. Bang! Shu Song's eyes turned cold, but his body did not move. The stone table exploded without warning when it was still 10 feet or so from him. After which, it turned into dust that slowly fell to the ground. All generals, capture these 2 traitors! Shu Xong cried out in a dark and cold voice. Mountain General Meng Shan and General Tian Yi instantly stood up as a fierce glow appeared in their eyes. However, they quickly felt that something was not quite right. Immediately, their expressions altered as they looked at Chen Tong and the rest beside them. All they saw were the fluctuating expressions on these people as they tightly grasped the wine cups in their hands. Huan Miao glanced at Little Flame, who had a ferocious look in his eyes. She clenched her teeth and ultimately did not stand up. Chen Tong, what are all of you doing? General Tian Yi cried out furiously. Chen Tong's 5-men group exchanged glances. Soon after, a fierce glint also surged in their eyes. They were after all proud and brave individuals. Now that there was no turning back, they could only fight with all their might. Don't you know very well what we want to do? Chen Tong clenched his teeth and said. All of you actually dare to betray Demon Commander? Are you seeking death? Have you forgotten the power of the deep dark ghost seal? Mountain General Meng Shan laughed coldly. However, some panic had appeared within his eyes. The current situation had exceeded their expectations. Who could have expected that 7 of the 9 great generals were planning to rebel? The scene at the front of the hall caused everyone to be shocked. What was happening? The generals were rebelling? Ha ha, so you have come prepared. Shu Xong gazed at Chen Tong's group as the dark look in his eyes grew even darker. He looked at Little Flame. General Yang, I really could not tell that you managed to get 5 of my great generals to rebel within a short 1 year. Hua Miao, are you also planning on following General Yang and rebel? Shu Xong suddenly turned towards Hua Miao. The latter was different from the other great generals. She had a background that even Shu Xong did not wish to rashly offend. If even she was helping Little Flame. Hua Miao gently bit her lips. She hesitated for a moment and said, I have already repaid the favor I owe you. However, I hope that Demon Commander can be a little magnanimous with respect to what has happened today. Otherwise Deep Lightning Mountain's strength will likely suffer greatly. Shu Xong smiled faintly and said, there is no need for you to concern yourself with this matter. You are right. You have already repaid the favor I gave you. From now onwards, you can leave Deep Lightning Mountain. Hua Miao's status was different from the others. Behind her was one of the 8 king tribes, the 9 Lives Heavenly Cat tribe. Thus, Shu Xong naturally did not dare to place the deep dark ghost seal on her. Otherwise, if her elders were to learn of it, Deep Lightning Mountain would likely be unable to survive their rage. Although Shu Xong himself was also part of the Dark Abyss Tiger tribe, it was impossible for them to start a war with one of the 8 king tribes because of Shu Xong. Hua Miao gently clenched her hands as her eyes flickered. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. Ha ha, everyone, this king originally wanted everyone to have a good time today. However, some issues has emerged. No matter. Once this king has dealt with this rebellion, the mountain gathering will continue as planned. Shu Xong slowly stood up and laughed in a faint voice. Everyone in the hall faced each other. Soon after, they quickly laughed dryly and agreed. With such a big matter occurring in Deep Lightning Mountain today, the strength of the faction would diminish even if it could be resolved. At that time, they could take the opportunity to leave Deep Lightning Mountain's control. After all, regardless of how great Shu Xong was, he would have difficulty handling everything alone without his subordinates working for him. However, Shu Xong ignored these flickering gazes below. In his eyes, those people were insignificant. Once he cleared these rebels, he would let them learn of his strength. After which, these people would naturally not dare to have any wild thoughts. It seemed that he needed to use some ruthless and vicious methods in order to prevent such a situation from occurring in the future. Chen Tong, this king shall give all of you a chance. After 10 breaths, if you take action and capture General Yang, this king can choose to ignore you past mistakes. Shu Xong spoke in a faint voice. Chen Tong's 5-men group had stiff expressions. However, they did not act. 10 breaths passed by quickly and venomous expression surged in Shu Song's eyes. With a clench of his hand, a black light symbol appeared. He subsequently clenched his hand again, abruptly crushing the symbol. However, the explosion that he expected did not appear following the destruction of the black light symbol. The corners of Chen Tong and the rest's mouths twitched. Ferociousness finally surged in their eyes as they stared at Shu Xong. The previous fear that they had also faded little by little under this anger. They were clearly aware of what the black light symbol was. If the deep dark ghost seal was still present in their bodies, it was likely that their bodies would have exploded. The deep dark ghost seal within their bodies have already been removed by me. Lin Dong watched Shu Song's solo performance. Only then did he let out a faint laughter. So it's like this. Shu Xong deeply inhaled a breath of air as his expression turned somewhat ashen. He slowly turned his head and stared at Lin Dong as his face distorted, turning a little terrifying. After I capture you, I will plant 100 deep dark ghost seals on your body and let you properly enjoy it. I will kill you. Little Flame finally exploded as a rumbling fierce aura spread. Majestic Yuan power gathered behind him, turning into a black light tiger that roared towards the sky. Moreover, his entire body transformed into a formidable black light and ruthlessly attacked Shu Xong. Black light flew towards Shu Xong with lightning speed. However, just they were about to collide, black light flashed within the large hall, and a black figure appeared in front of Shu Xong like a shadow. Bang! 2 huge fists seemed to clash together. An energy storm which caused one's breath to halt swept from the point of contact. The two figures were forced to take a couple of steps back, turning the rock under their feet directly into dust. The force scattered and everyone looked over, only to see a black figure flash and appear beside Shu Xong. His entire body was concealed under the shadow of a black robe. Only the shocking yuan power that was being emitted allowed everyone to understand his great strength. Shadow Guard. Chen Tong and the others looked at the black shadow as their eyes sunk slightly. However, they were not surprised. It was likely they were long aware of his existence. Lin Dong took a look at the Shadow Guard. There was no surprise in his eyes. Perfect profound death stage. This Shadow Guard was indeed rather powerful. Bastard, this king has long known that a beast like you harbors murderous intent. Do you think that you are the only one who has made preparations? Shu Xong laughed coldly. A perfect profound death stage Shadow Guard. It is within expectations. Lin Dong smiled and said. Is that so? Ridicule rose from the corners of Shu Song's mouth. Quickly after, his lips parted as he spoke in a dark and cold manner. What about one more demon commander? Everyone within the large hall was stunned. One more demon commander? Shu Xong, looks like it's just as you said. Your top general really intends to take action against you during this mountain gathering. Loud laughter suddenly thundered in the large hall at this moment. After which, the air above the huge hall suddenly exploded apart. Large rocks fell and a man in lion armor was accompanied by an astonishing aura as he appeared in the eyes of the watching crowd. That is, the demon commander of 100 Beast Ridge. Qin Shi. Everyone looked at the man in a lion armor who had appeared as their expressions instantly changed. The faces of Chen Tong's group abruptly became deathly pale. Clearly, no one had expected Shu Xong to invite another demon commander. Shu Xong, this king has agreed to help you. However, you should be clearly aware of the price. Qin Shi laughed heartily. His lion-like roar resounded within the huge hall, causing one to feel a piercing pain in one's ear. Kill this human brat and I will agree with your condition. Shu Xong spoke in a dark voice. Qin Shi's sharp eyes looked at Lin Dong from the air as he grinned. Looks like I have found a good deal this time. All right, let us do as you say. Roar? Qin Shi's loud laughter sounded. After which, a lion roar spread. His body moved, turning into a flash of resplendent golden light. The golden light condensed and appeared like a golden lion as it ruthlessly charged towards Lin Dong. However, Lin Dong continued to remain still in the face of Qin Shi's formidable attack. Golden light flashed and appeared above Lin Dong. Hopelessness involuntarily surged in the eyes of Chen Tong's group as they felt the waves of wild and violent energy. Bang! A low and deep sound appeared as the area around instantly collapsed while cracks began spreading like a spider web. Countless pairs of eyes quickly looked in that direction. That human, was he killed by a single strike? Shu Xong laughed coldly as he looked towards that spot. Qin Shi's strength was similar to his own. With a fully powered blow from the latter, even an ordinary perfect profound death stage expert would be seriously injured or even killed. Even less needed to be said about Lin Dong. The dust gradually disappeared under the many watching eyes. Soon after, the scene within was revealed. A skinny figure was still silently seated. It was possible to see a wine cup being gently held in his hand. After which, he lifted the wine cup and emptied it in a single gulp before he slowly lifted his head. Those black eyes of his were indifferent as they looked at Shu Xong, whose icy smile had slowly begun to stiffen. Lin Dong smiled. Sorry, I am also prepared. The entire place was quiet. This was because a completely black figure had unknowingly appeared beside this young man. A black hand tightly grabbed Qin Shi's arm. The full-powered attack of a demon commander was actually blocked in such an easy fashion. The black figure silently stood beside Lin Dong. The ground within 10 feet from him was untouched and even the smallest crack had not invaded this area. Evidently, not even the slightest force from Qin Shi's formidable attack had managed to seep in. The pupils of several people in the huge hall shrunk because of this scene. Soon after, some of them lightly gasped in their hearts while surprise surged onto their faces. Just who was this black figure? Even one of the 8 great demon commanders, Shu, was unable to do anything against him. A puppet? However, someone quickly felt that something was amiss. The eyes that belonged to the figure were dull and hollow and did not possess any intelligence. It was actually a puppet. A puppet comparable to a demon commander. The throats of those who detected this gulped as their hearts were quickly filled with shock. At the front of the hall, the despair that had previously appeared in the eyes of Chen Tong's group turned into astonishment at this moment. They were stunned as they looked at the steady as a mountain young man under the protection of the black shadow. The latter's face still contained the smile that they usually saw. Mysterious and unfathomable. The hearts that were about to jump out of their mouths finally fell back down and gradually relaxed. Only at this moment did they understand why someone as proud and untamable as General Yang was willing to call that young man Big Brother. Compared to the usually ferocious-looking little flame, it was obvious that this usually smiling brother of his was the most terrifying. You wish to block this king with a mere puppet? Shu's expression changed rapidly. After which, he suddenly cried out in a cold voice as bright golden light erupted from within his body. Both of his fists were thrown forward like a storm. Every golden light fist turned into a rampaging lion that charged towards the devouring sky corpse from all directions. However, the sky-devouring corpse did not move in the face of this storm of attacks. It was akin to a bottomless hole as it devoured the terrifying attacks that could kill an ordinary perfect profound death stage expert. Everyone could hear Shu's wild storm-like attacks land on the sky-devouring corpse. However, they were shocked to find that regardless of how fierce Shu's attacks were, that black figure was as steady as a rock. Those legs that stood the ground did not even take a single step back. The young man behind it did not even turn his head. That young face contained a faint smile which gave one the chills. The golden light finally began to disappear. Shu, whose face was interlaced with black and white, suddenly backed away. Astonishment was present in his gaze as he looked at the completely still sky-devouring corpse while those originally disdainful eyes finally became rather grave. Shu Xong, it looks like you have offended some troublesome fellows. This brat is not simple. Shu said as he looked towards Shu Xong on the throne, whose eyes had also turned grave because of this scene. Who dared to say that Lin Dong was simple, given that he was able to take out a puppet that was comparable to a peak-perfect profound death stage expert? No wonder he dares to create trouble in my deep lightning mountain. It turns out that he has some tricks up his sleeve. Shu Song's sinister eyes stared at Lin Dong as he slowly said. Lin Dong smiled faintly. With a light clench of his hand, the wine cup within it was turned to dust, which scattered with the wind. Soon after, he stood up, stared at Shu Xong and said, I have said that I am here to demand repayment on behalf of my brother. With that puppet? Shu Xong narrowed his eyes. There is also myself. Lin Dong smiled as he walked towards Shu Xong as resplendent green light began to sweep out from within his body. Soon after, numerous green dragon light tattoos condensed and roared at the sky. The dragon roar shook the large hall. An extremely powerful pressure was slowly emitted as the green dragon light tattoos entwined around Lin Dong. This pressure, Dragon Tribe. The expressions of countless people changed due to dread. They were terrified as they gazed at the pressure that scattered from Lin Dong's body. As demonic beasts, they were a dozen times more sensitive to this kind of pressure than humans. Hence, the suppression of this mighty pressure was even more obvious. Such pressure was clearly something that only a genuine member of the Dragon Tribe could possess. Yet, it actually came from a human. The shock in the eyes of Chen Tong's group intensified when they saw this scene. They discovered that it was becoming increasingly difficult to see through the young man before them. Little Flame, that shadow guard will be yours to deal with. Green light circled within Lin Dong's eyes as he stared at Shu Xong and softly said, Be careful, big brother. Little Flame hesitated for a moment before finally nodding his head. Although Lin Dong's strength appeared to be the initial profound death stage on the surface, the fluctuation emitted from him caused even Little Flame to be afraid. Shu, I will leave that puppet for you to deal with. What do you say? Ferociousness also appeared from the corners of Shu Song's mouth. It is merely a puppet. Once I finish this brat off, that thing will naturally stop. Ha ha, all right. Shu heartily laughed. A glint immediately flashed across his eyes as he said, however, this puppet will belong to me after you finish off that brat. Even though Shu was the leader of a faction, he still greatly coveted this puppet. It was after all comparable to a peak-perfect profound death stage expert. Shu Song's eyelids twitched upon hearing this, but he quickly nodded his head. He clearly could not reject at this moment. Although giving up such a powerful puppet caused him to feel a heartache, now was not the time to feel a heartache over such an issue. I will get rid of this brat as soon as possible. Shu Xong clenched both of his hands as black light surged and galloped over the surface of his body. Subsequently, his body gradually swelled while his skin swiftly turned black. Tiger symbols appeared one after another and black metal-like tiger fur grew from under his skin. Within a short couple of breaths, Shu Xong had taken a half-beast form that was brimming with a shockingly fierce and baleful aura. Everyone could clearly sense that a terrifying power was contained within that half-beast body. Such power could destroy a mountain. This was the combat mode of the Dark Abyss Tiger tribe. Brat, I will choose a good grave for you two brothers on this deep lightning mountain. A baleful aura so dreadful that it would make one's soul shiver was unleashed from Shu Song's tiger face. It will be better to leave such a place for yourself. Lin Dong smiled. Soon after, his toes pushed off the ground. A dragon roar sounded as his body turned into a ray of light that shot forward. He clenched his hand while moving and the Lightning Emperor scepter appeared. Bright lightning arcs flashed over it. Roar! Bloody light and a ferocious aura surged out like floodwaters from Little Flame as he let out an angry roar. After which, he pounced at the Shadow Guard. Both of them were quickly tangled in battle. A terrifying energy ripple spread, turning the places that it reached into a mess. The entire hall had clearly become incomparably chaotic at this moment. Everyone withdrew one after another, feeling afraid that they would be implicated into this shocking fight. Chen Tong and the rest also backed away. However, their gazes were glued to Meng Shan and the rest. They also had some control over the defenses of Deep Lightning Mountain. As long as Lin Dong was able to defeat Shu Xong, they were confident of taking control Deep Lightning Mountain. The Lightning Emperor scepter flickered with lightning as it heavily clashed against a tiger fist. Sparks shot out and the resultant shock wave formed by the collision of two astonishing energies caused the stone tables and chairs to turn into dust. Lin Dong had an indifferent expression. He moved and appeared above Shu Xong in a ghost-like fashion. With a jerk of his arm, thunder resounded over the entire sky. Countless thunderbolts whizzed out along with the scepter shadow. They directly enveloped all the fatal spots of Shu Song's body. Dark Abyss Golden Body Shield. Shu Xong sneered. He let out a low cry and many rays of black light began to swim under his skin. Black light flashed, causing his body to appear as though it was made from black metal. The thunderbolts ruthlessly blasted Shu Song's body, causing sparks to fly. However, he did not move. The strength of the demon commander had finally been completely revealed at this moment. Is this all you have? It seems that this king has overestimated you. Shu Song's fierce eyes stared at Lin Dong as lightning landed on his body. He mocked before clenching his fist and throwing a punch forward. Dark Abyss Fist. Black Yuan power gushed out from Shu Song's fist like an erupting volcano. It appeared as if a black roaring tiger that contained astonishing murderous intent was charging towards Lin Dong. Roar! Lin Dong stood in the air. Many green dragon-like tattoos swiftly rose. Subsequently, his arm swelled and transformed into a green dragon arm. Without the slightest intention of giving in, it clashed head-on against Shu Song's strike. Bang! The tiger fist and dragon claw smashed violently against each other. At that moment, even the air itself seemed to have frozen. Soon after, a frightening energy ripple that was visible to the naked eye unfurled. Many huge pillars in the hall crumbled as huge rocks continuously fell into the hall. It looked as though the hall was collapsing. Everyone fled from the hall. Subsequently, they watched as it finally collapsed. The entire mountain seemed to shake at this moment. Boom! A figure shot backwards from within the ruins. The lightning emperor scepter in his hand smashed heavily onto the ground, directly tearing open a 10,000 feet long deep gully before his body finally stabilized. Huge rocks were blasted apart from within the ruins. Shu Song's body was filled with a fiendish aura as he took a large step forward. All the rubble in his way was stomped to dust. That frightening destructive force made one's eyes twitch violently. As one of the 8 great demon commanders, Shu Xong clearly possesses extremely overwhelming fighting strength. Is this all you have? Shu Xong flew forward with huge strides as he looked at Lin Dong, who had been sent flying into the distance, while a furious mocking voice sounded. He swung his foot and a small mountain-like giant rock shot forward and ruthlessly smashed towards Lin Dong. Shu Xong had clearly obtained the upper hand in the earlier clash. Lin Dong lifted his head and watched the huge shadow that was rapidly approaching. Scorching battle intent began to surge in his black eyes. Roar! An earth-shaking dragon roar finally sounded as the huge rock came smashing down. Everyone saw green dragon-like tattoos suddenly rush out from Lin Dong's body. With a swing of a dragon tail, the huge rock was shattered. Many deafening dragon roars continued to be heard. Soon after, everyone saw 100 green dragon-like tattoos flying out from the skinny figure. 100 dragons surged. In that moment, the land trembled. Dragon roars shook the heavens. Numerous green dragon-like tattoos soared one after another as 100 dragons roared together. A powerful pressure unfurled, causing the countless demonic beasts within the entire Deep Lightning Mountain range to tremble. Every gaze on Deep Lightning Mountain was suffused with shock as they looked at the skinny young man surrounded 100 green dragon-like tattoos. All of them could clearly detect a boundless power within each green dragon-like tattoo, and the union of 100 terrified them. They were really unable to imagine how the frail body of a human could contain such frightening power. This pressure did indeed originate from the dragon tribe. Could the young man before their eyes be related to the dragon tribe, one of the 4 overlord tribes? Amazing. There was a serious look in Chen Tong and the rest's eyes as they looked at the scene before them. They immediately exchanged glances and grinned. Only at this moment did they clearly understand how comical their doubt towards Lin Dong was that night. Moreover, they finally understood why Lin Dong had said those seemingly exceptionally arrogant words that he and his brother were enough to deal with the matter of Deep Lightning Mountain that night. It turned out that he indeed had the right to say so. Shu Song's steps had finally paused at this moment. He looked at the 100 green dragon-like tattoos swirling around Lin Dong as a grave expression appeared in those tiger eyes. The dragon tribe's body-tempering martial arts, huh? This is going to be interesting. Shu Song's scarlet tongue licked his lips while a baleful aura surged in his eyes. However, regardless of how powerful the techniques you have are, your strength is merely at the initial profound death stage. Shu Xong took a big step forward, transforming into a flash of black light as he shot forward. Along the way, the ground split open. The huge cracks were like a darkness tiger that was tearing the ground apart, roaring as it charged at Lin Dong. Is that so? A green dragon occupied Lin Dong's eyes. Although his body was thin, his aura was like the boundless sea as he stepped forward. Crack! Enormous cracks spread to a 10,000 feet large radius in a spiderweb-like fashion while the air exploded. All everyone could see was green light ripping through space. In the next moment, the green and black light figures had already collided with at the mountaintop. Bang! A shock wave formed by both green and black instantly erupted. Mountains were blasted into smithereens while large areas of lush green forests were flattened. Countless figures floated in the air. Their eyes were shocked as they looked down upon the mess below. After which, they looked to the source of the shock wave where a huge pit had appeared. 2 figures stood the center of the pit with their fists touching each other. A frightening and almost corporeal energy wave spread, causing an extremely distorted feeling to appear within space itself. Lin Dong did not even take a step back in this head-on clash. A draw? Countless people violently gasped in their hearts. Although Lin Dong was able to receive Shu Song's attacks in their previous clash, he was clearly at a disadvantage. After all, no matter how one put it, he was merely an initial profound death stage expert, while this Shu Xong was at the peak of the perfect profound death stage. According to common sense, a direct clash between a profound death stage expert and Shu Xong would likely lead to the former's body bursting into bloody foam. However, the strength of Lin Dong's physical body had clearly reached a rather frightening level. "Brat, you really do possess some ability." Shu Xong grinned and spoke in a sinister manner as he looked at the young man before him, whose body was surrounded by green light tattoos while a green dragon occupied his eyes. "You are not bad either." Lin Dong smiled. The desire to fight surged like an erupting volcano within his pitch-black eyes. This was the first time he had truly clashed directly against an expert of this level, causing his blood to boil slightly. Shu Xong was considered to be extremely close to the samsara stage. This was a level that was once practically invincible in Lin Dong's eyes. But now, he was approaching it step by step. He believed that there will finally come a day when he would truly be able to match an expert at this level. At that time, Lin Dong would return to the Eastern Xian region. He would let the entire Eastern Xian region learn that the person who had been chased by the Yuan Gate until he had to flee the Eastern Xian region like a homeless stray, had once again come charging back. "Old dogs of the Yuan Gate, just you wait." Surging battle desire rose within Lin Dong's eyes. Soon after, he smiled ferociously at Shu Xong. "Now, I shall use all of you as my whetstone." Roar! 100 green dragon light tattoos roared as they swirled around Lin Dong, and a punch was thrown. This punch seemed to contain the surging fighting intent within his body. Green dragon heavenly seat seal. 100 green dragon light tattoos condensed under Lin Dong's fist. Before stepping into the profound death stage, only 50 green dragon light tattoos could be formed in Lin Dong's body. After a breakthrough and experiencing the cleansing of the death flame spirit pool in the divine flame hall, his strength had clearly soared once again. The punch caused the entire deep lightning mountain to tremble. That force seemed to be able to destroy the world. The green light reflected in Shu Song's eyes grew brighter while the expression in his eyes became increasingly grave. At this very moment, he finally withdrew the all-contempt he had in his heart. Dark Abyss Universe Palm. Shu Xong took a couple of steps back as monstrous Yuan power rumbled out like an ocean. A huge black tiger formed above his fists. It moved in a strange fashion and its huge mouth seemed to contain the universe. Roar! A tiger roared and a dragon howled. Subsequently, two frighteningly powerful attacks once again whizzed forward. Immediately, the entire land shook due to the shocking clash. Many pairs of eyes contained horror as they looked at the two figures in battle. This battle had already reached an extremely violent level. Since the very beginning, it was likely that no one could have imagined that this skinny-looking young human would actually be able to fight against a renowned demon commander of the Beast War region to such an extent. Regardless of whether this battle ended in victory or defeat, Lin Dong's name would definitely spread throughout the Beast War region after this battle. Roar! A blood-red light tiger roared at the heavens while Little Flame's body swept forth like a flash of blood-red light. A 10,000 feet boulder was grabbed by his hand. Subsequently, it was used as a weapon and thrown ruthlessly towards the Black Shadow in an insane manner. Bang bang bang. The Black Shadow was also unusually ferocious. Punch after punch was thrown, shattering the 10,000 feet large boulder piece by piece as rock fragments flew across the sky. In the next moment, the two figures heavily collided together. Bang! Space distorted and two figures shot backwards. After which, two mountains were completely shattered and rock fragments filled the sky. The two figures had already charged at each other again before ruthlessly clashing. The fight in another part of the sky also appeared extremely intense. However, one of the lead actors, Shu, had unexpectedly suffered somewhat. This puppet did not show any signs of dodging when faced with his attacks. Moreover, regardless of how fierce Shu's attacks were, he was unable to see any damage appear on the puppet's body. His offense was completely useless. Yet, he needed to use all his strength to defend against a counterattack by the sky-devouring corpse. Fortunately, these attacks was unable to force him into an overly sorry state despite being rather powerful. Nevertheless, this fight was stifling no matter what he did. This wretched thing. Qinsha involuntarily roared. Soon after, his offense suddenly became even more intense. However, the sky-devouring corpse remained indifferent. Its body moved rapidly, eating all of his attacks before retaliating. This puppet is really strange. All I can do is let Shu Xong quickly finish off that brat. Qinsha's complexion was ashen. He finally understood that it was impossible for a victor to emerge in this fight with the puppet. Moreover, it was clearly to his disadvantage if this battle dragged on. Although he was a demonic beast, he would eventually tire. Yet, this puppet would not, therefore, he would sooner or later have to flee miserably if the fight dragged on in this manner. Hence, all he could do was pray that Shu Xong would be able to finish off Lindong as soon as possible. However, with such thoughts in mind, his pupils shrunk when glanced at the frightening battle below as unease began to rise in his heart. He had begun to regret agreeing to intervene this time around. This Lindong, who had suddenly appeared, was clearly someone extraordinary. Bang! Lindong's eyes had become somewhat burning because of his surging desire to fight. His body shot forward like lightning and both of his fists were thrown forward. The force that accompanied every punch of his contained the power of 100 green dragon-like tattoos. With the increase in his strength and proficiency in the green heaven materialized dragon skill, the green dragon-like tattoos that his body formed had also become increasingly concentrated. It no longer disappeared with every punch he threw like in the past. Currently, as long as he had sufficient yuan power, his attacks would remain at the level of 100 green dragon-like tattoos. At this level, the so-called exquisite techniques were basically useless. One could easily break through them with sheer force. This was a type of absolute strength. Two light figures crossed each other while everyone watched as the land collapsed. Subsequently, two figures shot backwards. Their feet thrust into the ground, creating a 10,000 feet long scar. What an intense fight! Many pairs of eyes looked at the two figures which had shot backwards. At this moment, the clothes on Lindong's and Shu Song's body were in tatters. Their extremely strong bodies were covered with bloody wounds and even their breathing had become much heavier because of the intense exchange. Blood dripped down Shu Song's arm. His eyes were scarlet and ferocious as he stared at Lindong and smiled in an eerie manner. It has been a long time since I have had such an enjoyable time exchanging blows with another. Lindong also smiled at him. His smile was equally ferocious. You should know that I am from the Dark Abyss Tiger tribe, right? Shu Xong lifted his hand. He looked at his bloody hand and suddenly asked. Lindong narrowed his eyes. Why does it matter? I wonder if you have heard. The scarlet red in his eyes became even redder. Soon after, he slowly lay on the ground as waves of black light rippled from his body. After which, everyone watched as his body swelled at a shocking rate. Tough needle-like black tiger fur swiftly appeared while his hands and feet began to turn into sharp tiger paws. Within a short span of time, a 10,000 feet tall grey giant tiger appeared on Deep Lightning Mountain. A layer of grey-scale armor covered the body of the giant tiger. Meanwhile, many enormous grey bone thorns extended from his back, turning into a pair of bone wings that flickered with sharp cold light. A terrifyingly brutal aura soared towards the sky at this moment. The huge tiger stood on the mountaintop and roared at Lindong. The frightening sound wave caused many huge cracks to appear. Contained within the tiger roar was an astonishing murderous intent as it resounded across the land. This is. The eyes of Chen Tong's group suddenly shrunk upon seeing this scene. The Dark Abyss Tiger tribe's final combat form. Dark Abyss Heavenly Tiger Body. This Shu Xong has finally been pushed to this step. This video will end here.